29 years and 362 days. That's what I told him when he leaned back in his leather chair and asked how long I had been with the company. My stomach nodded when I saw the manila folder on his desk. In nearly 3 decades, I had never been summoned on a Friday afternoon like this. Something was wrong. My name is Melody Reynolds. I'm 61 years old, and until 5 minutes ago, I was the senior compliance officer at GRW Manufacturing, one of St. Paul's largest industrial firms. For 29 years, I combed through reports, filed memos, and stood in the way of shortcuts that risked legality. My work wasn't glamorous, but it was necessary. And on Monday, just 3 days away, my pension was set to fully vest the milestone I had worked my entire adult life for. But David Langston didn't even flinch as he slid the folder across the desk. Due to budget constraints, we're letting you go. Effective immediately. His eyes never met mine. Budget constraints. GRW had just reported record profits. My mind went cold, not frantic. This wasn't random, it was calculated. A dismissal timed precisely so my pension would slip through my fingers. I didn't beg, I didn't shout. I said only, "Thank you for the opportunity," and picked up the folder. He looked almost startled at my composure. He had expected tears, perhaps, please, but my career had been built on spotting patterns, and this one was clear as day. They wanted me gone before I could claim what I had earned. Janet from HR hovered while I packed my desk. I didn't take much the photo of my late husband Thomas, the potted plant my daughter gave me before leaving for college, the plaque for 25 years of service. What mattered most couldn't fit into a cardboard box. Janet whispered, "This isn't right, Melody." I only nodded. It was more than not right. It was possibly illegal. For 4 years, I had quietly documented irregularities, backdated reports, falsified data instructions to look away. Every time I flagged issues, they were dismissed, buried, or rerouted. But I kept copies. I kept notes. Not because I planned to use them, but because something in me knew I might need them someday. That day had come. Driving home through the April rain, I passed the cathedral where Thomas and I had married, the school where our daughter had graduated, the modest home I had maintained alone for 12 years since he died. I thought about the sacrifices, the missed recitals, the canceled vacations, the late nights spent combing through contracts. I had traded so much for the security of that pension, believing loyalty would one day be rewarded. Instead, loyalty had been weaponized against me. At my kitchen table, I opened the severance package. 3 months' salary. In return, I would sign away my rights to all future claims, my pension, even my health care. They wanted my silence. They wanted me desperate. But I wasn't desperate. I was prepared. I unlocked the fireproof box in my office tucked behind photo albums. Inside were hundreds of pages of evidence, falsified loan applications, manipulated quarterly figures, emails, ordering staff to backdate certifications. 4 years of proof. 4 years of being ignored. Now suddenly I understood why they had moved so ruthlessly to push me out. I scrolled through my phone and stopped at a name I hadn't dialed in years. Gregory Santos, once GRW's chief financial officer, now with the Securities and Exchange Commission. He had always respected my diligence, even when others found it inconvenient. My finger hovered over his name, my breath steady. It was time. That night, I told Gregory everything. 2 hours on the phone, laying out every irregularity, every piece of evidence. He listened, his tone measured, but grave. "This isn't just wrongful termination, Melody. Based on what you've described, this could be serious securities fraud. Don't sign anything. Secure the documents. I'll arrange a meeting with my team on Monday morning." When we hung up, I sat in silence. For years, I had believed in the system, trusted in the company, tried to solve problems quietly. But GRW had made its choice, and now I would make mine. I would not be silenced. The weekend passed like a storm held inside my chest. I hardly slept, hardly ate, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. Every detail of the past 29 years replayed in my head, the times I stayed late to clean up others' mistakes, the contracts I corrected before regulators could catch them, the birthdays I missed for the good of the company. It was like watching my whole life on fast forward, only now I could see the pattern. I had been too loyal to admit GRW had never valued me. They had only ever used me. On Sunday evening, I laid everything out on my dining table. Dozens of folders, USB drives, neatly labeled binders. Every lie they thought would disappear in the archives was staring back at me. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt clarity. Monday morning, I walked into a federal building instead of GRW. Gregory met me in the lobby. His face had aged since the days when we worked together, but his handshake was still firm, his eyes still honest. He led me to a conference room where 3 SEC investigators sat waiting. For hours, I answered their questions. I showed them backdated certifications, fraudulent accounting entries, emails with instructions to make the numbers work. I explained how the timeline of my firing fit perfectly with the vesting of my pension. Every page I handed over seemed to deepen the silence in the room. When I finished, Gregory leaned back, arms crossed. "Melody, this isn't just about your pension. This could bring down the entire executive team. You've done the right thing." Walking out of that building, I felt taller, lighter. The April air no longer smelled of betrayal, it smelled of change. By Wednesday, whispers were already moving through the city. Tanya called me, her voice electric with both fear and excitement. "Melody, auditors are here. People are saying the SEC is investigating. Dan hasn't been seen in 2 days." I closed my eyes and let the words wash over me. For so long, I had been the quiet one, the loyal one, the invisible rock in the river. Now the tide was turning, and it wasn't rage carrying me forward, it was justice. By the end of that week, the investigation was no longer whispers, it was front-page news. Local outlets splashed GRW's name across their headlines, and national journalists began circling. Words like fraud, embezzlement, and wrongful termination were suddenly attached to the same company that once held glossy award ceremonies for excellence in ethics. Former co-workers began calling me, their voices full of nerves. Some were frightened about their jobs, others quietly relieved. The truth was finally clawing its way into the light. Janet from HR, the one who had watched me pack my desk, whispered over the phone. "They're panicking, Melody. The board is furious. People are talking about class action suits." I sat in my small living room listening to the storm unfold and felt something I hadn't felt in years: control. For nearly 3 decades, they had treated me as replaceable, a cog in their machine. Now my voice and my documents had become the very tools dismantling their empire. On Sunday night, Gregory called with an update. His tone was calm but edged with gravity. "The evidence you provided was stronger than we expected. This isn't just pension fraud, it looks like systemic securities manipulation. There will be indictments." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear, stunned. The same executives who had thought they could cheat me of what I'd earned were about to face justice far greater than anything I could have orchestrated alone. But the moment that shook me most came 2 weeks later when Tanya invited me for coffee. She placed a hand over mine and said, "We all thought loyalty was everything, Melody. But you showed us loyalty doesn't mean silence. You gave us courage." I blinked back tears. For so long, I had believed my story ended with humiliation, with being cast out days before security and stability were in my grasp. But instead, my ending had turned into a beginning, not just for me, but for everyone who had been afraid to speak. Sometimes revenge doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, like truth finally given a voice. If you've ever felt discarded after years of giving your all, I hope my story reminds you, silence protects no one but the guilty. Speak, stand, choose yourself. And if this story touched you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs strength, and subscribe for more stories told from the heart. And leave a comment. I want to hear the moment you realized you deserved better.